dedicated to fixing his health after suffering from many health issues since childhood. Our next guest has dedicated himself and his company to helping others find holistic and natural recommendations based on their health data. Joe Cohen, CEO of Self-Decode, joins us to discuss how he and his team are revolutionizing the healthcare industry by providing individuals personalized lab-based health recommendations based on their DNA. Additionally, Joe shares why Self-Decode is continually driven by its mission to help people optimize their health. Join us for this exciting conversation to learn how Joe and the Self-Decode team are paving the way for precision health. Let's go.
Welcome to Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli, where we highlight and speak with the innovators, the game changers, and the pioneers who are deeply passionate and relentless in solving the problems our world is facing today. This is your opportunity to connect with and learn from these leaders and to support them on their mission. Perhaps they will soon be hearing your story as well. This is Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli. I look forward to having you on this journey with us.
Hi, Joe. Welcome to our podcast, and thank you for joining up today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Well, given your personal frustration of suffering from inflammation, brain fog, fatigue, digestive problems, anxiety, depression, and other issues, and your journey in building a global leading biotech software platform for DNA and lab-based health recommendations, I am really excited to learn from you today. But Joe, before we dive in, a bit of housekeeping. While listening to any of our episodes, please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast so you will automatically receive episode updates in your podcast player. Simply search Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And lastly, please visit the bottom of the episode notes to connect with me on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Clubhouse in order to further the conversations occurring on this podcast. All right, Joe. It's almost time for our community to learn how you and the Self-Decode team are breaking new ground and using artificial intelligence and machine learning to make better health recommendations based on a person's genes, lab results, and environmental data. But first, what's that one piece of advice that you'd give to others who are passionate about reimagining the health of our world?
I would say that an individual should first make sure their health is in order if they want to start a healthcare company and change the health of the world around them.
Joe, I love it. Short and sweet, but it's so true. And I think that also applies to our mental health, right? We've had a lot of conversations on the podcast around entrepreneurs and their mental health, making sure that we take care of our holistic health, both physically, mentally, emotionally, or otherwise. Would you agree with that, Joe?
1,000,000%. I mean, when I say health, I'm talking about mental health, physical health, everything. But mental health is a huge part of health. You can't really underplay that.
And Joe, I'm glad you brought this up. We have a lot to unpack here in just a moment on the other side of our commercial break. But Joe, I want to stick on this for a moment because it is so important. Being a founder of a tech company just like you are, it can be a lonely experience. I've been there. I've done that. I've built companies for myself. It is so important to make sure that you're also weaving in self-care, making sure that you're giving back to yourself, because if you don't do that, how can you give to others? How can you give to your team members? How can you give to your customers? Is that part of your daily practice, as well as ensuring as an entrepreneur, as you build the Self-Decode platform, that you're baking that time in for some of that self-care?
Yeah, I think it's not only the time. For me, self-care is about more know-how than the actual time. There's ways to be quite efficient about your time. For example, I take a lot of work meetings while I'm on calls. So I'm exercising while I'm working. I'm doing a lot of things while I'm working. And I think there's ways to live your life. I'm outside while I'm working a lot. So I'm getting sun, I'm getting fresh air, I'm exercising. So I basically build my day around my work. And so I think you can. I'm putting in 60, 70-hour weeks pretty typically. And I don't find that, I don't have enough time for my health. I think it's just more about the planning and the know-how. You have to know what are the things that really are important for your health.
I love it. It's such a great call. The walk and talks are so powerful. You know, here myself living in Denver and in Colorado, I am very unapologetic about it. I'll head up into higher country, get some skiing in, because I've had some of my best breakthroughs, my best ideas for new startups, new ideas, new products, etc., while blasting down the side of a mountain on a pair of skis. So I'm unapologetic about it, getting out in nature, building your days around that are so important. So, Joe, thank you for sharing that. I love it. It's such an important topic. Wanted to spend a little additional time on that, and really, really looking forward to hearing more about everything you and the Self-Decode team have and are building and where things are heading in the future after we get back from thanking our community champion sponsor. Located in Denver, Colorado's nationally ranked River North District, Catalyst is a healthcare innovation campus that brings together stakeholders from across the industry to accelerate innovation and drive real, lasting change our nation desperately needs. From established organizations to startups, from accelerators to advocacy organizations, and from medical schools to global companies, everyone at Catalyst works side by side to create, develop, refine, and bring to market cutting-edge innovations that will fundamentally transform healthcare as we know it. With industry leaders like Medical Group Management Association, Olive, Medical Solutions, UC Health, Cirrus MD, and many others calling Catalyst home, along with innovative pioneers visiting from across the nation, Catalyst continually fosters their foundational belief that collaboration and partnerships will move the healthcare industry forward. To virtually tour Catalyst and claim your space on campus or host an upcoming event, visit catalysthealthtech.com or visit the top of the episode notes and click on their link. All right, we are back with Joe Cohen, CEO of Self-Decode. Joe, thank you so much for joining up today, being with us, sharing the Self-Decode journey with our community. We have a lot to discuss today. We've already teed up a heck of an episode at the front end of this recording talking about health, making sure that you're taking care of oneself. There's a lot what you guys are doing there with Self-Decode as well. So, Joe, let's talk about how this all come together in the first place. I'm really also excited to hear about how you created the Biohacker's Ultimate Resource website back in the day, Self-Hacked, which kind of led you to where you are today. Talk about where things are right now with Self-Decode, where things are heading, how we can maybe help you out, and then we'll get out of here. But first, Joe, take us back a bit. Give us a little bit of that founder's journey, how this all came to be in the first place.
Yeah, so growing up, I had a lot of different health issues, as you mentioned, just gut issues, mental health issues. I was a huge mess. And I had to figure out how do I solve these problems. And I realized I couldn't really do anything I wanted in life before I solved these problems. And I was looking at a lot of different blogs and reading a lot of different health books. And what was clear is that the information I was getting was not personalized, and people were just recommending things that were just working for them, essentially, right? So I went to doctors, I read different books, and I finally decided that I have to find something that works for me. And the way to do that is by looking at my personalized data. That's how I got into genetics and lab tests. And so I was like looking at my symptoms, I was looking at my genetics, I was looking at the lab tests. And this is when genetics first started to get popular, and it's still getting popular. But looking at all that data, I was able to make tremendous strides in my own health and understand my body better and become healthier. And that's when I decided that, hey, this is obviously the future, this precision healthcare. We're using data, like especially genomic data, lab data, in order to make better health decisions. And I just said, hey, this is what I want to do, right? This is the kind of company I want to start. And that's how I got started.
And Joe, give us a little bit of a time frame, because like you said, it's still becoming mainstream, this whole notion around genetics and precision health. Take us back to, give us a time frame of what you just all described there. When was that occurring for you?
So when I was, let's say, 23 to 25, I was dedicated to fixing my health. And this was when I was 25, that was in 2011 around, right? 2011, 11 years ago. I was already a few years into just reading a lot about health and dedicated to fixing my health. And that's when I also got my genetics genotype, and I started saving all my lab tests as much as I could find. And I really started to dig into the scientific literature. I went back to school to learn the sciences. And that was the beginning of my journey of basically like, okay, I was taking precision health, but on a very personal level. And so I did that for a number of years. I started Self-Hacked in 2013, end of 2013, 2014. And then I started Self-Decode in 2016.
And this whole notion of biohacking, precision health, and you kind of already mentioned it earlier, and I'll say it again, it is still entering into the mainstream. Still, a lot of people look at it kind of that deer in headlights, or what does that actually mean? When you were entering into this journey back in 2011, 2013, were you like one of the few that were there? I mean, I got to imagine that there weren't many people out there, weren't many Joes out there doing this.
Yeah, there weren't a lot of people. I mean, I was getting into intermittent fasting in 2009. That's when I started getting into like, intermittent fasting, vegan diets. It was very, very early days into this. And ketosis, all these kinds of things. It was early days. And I was trying it all at that point. And I was seeing what works for me. And that kind of extended. So I was doing a lot of experiments, but then it extended into, hey, I need to really learn more about these things. And then so from 2011 to 2010, I really was just very focused learning everything I could about health, particularly precision health.
Well, let's go there. You mentioned kind of springboard you into founding and building Self Decode. So let's go there, Joe. Give us that elevator pitch. What is Self Decode?
So Self Decode is a precision health platform that allows individuals to get precise recommendations based on their genetics, and they can get risk scores based on their genetics that allows them to improve their health, right? And we also offer the platform to businesses as well, other companies that want to provide precision health into their own platforms.
And how has it been going? So have you seen a big change, or where you started? You know, I hear it all of our CEO. He says it was the 28th take that turned Olive into who she is today. So there's a lot of pivoting. There's a lot of adjusting along the way as a founder, as an entrepreneur. Is where you started back, a number of years ago to where you are today. What has changed much? What have you seen in the marketplace? And what are some of the new things maybe you guys are experiencing today?
Wow. So starting in 2016, one of the biggest mistakes I made was starting the company without the right team. Now, I don't know if you would call it a mistake. It was just that you can't do it without the right know-how and the right team. And so when I started the company, I didn't really know what I was getting into, right? It's like, it's one thing doing precision health on yourself. It's another building out a platform and a software to really scale it on a big scale, right? So you could let's say, do research on SNPs and genes and see, okay, I've got this variant, I've got that variant, and you could piece together some interesting information. But when you're doing it on a population scale, you really need to use legit methods, and it's big data, AI problem, and it's a very technical expertise. So I was bringing together as much of the team as possible. It took me a couple of years to really bring the right team together to build a legit cutting edge product in the market.
No, it does. And it doesn't happen overnight, right? And in order to be a leader like you guys are, these are the things you have to go through. I mean, it's just part of the journey. And so, Joe, talk about that. Who makes up the team? You guys have an incredible team. Let's talk about them for a little bit so our community get to know who you've put around the whole Self Decode journey.
Yeah. So one of the big key hires was a CSO, and he became a co-founder because he's critical to the company. And his name is Puya, and he's an MD, and he has 15 years in the biotech world, specifically around all the things that we're doing around supplements, around healthcare. And he also has a clinical perspective as well. So he understands the science really well. And he actually found us through one of our gene pages or whatever, the SNP pages. And then we put all of our scientists through a battery of cognitive tests, and he scored really well and he had good experience and we got along. Turns out later that he's like, yeah, I got the 99.9 percentile on the MCAT. And so, well, yeah, that's why you did well on our test. And so he's a very smart guy. He knows what he's doing. He puts in 70, 80 hours a week. And together we've been able to really build out a science team. We had some really great scientists before, but with his leadership, we built out a great science team of bioinformaticians, data scientists, data engineers, genomicists. It's really a multifaceted team. And also MDs and just regular scientists who can write the content on a basic, understandable level.
That's exciting. And let's talk about some of the work that you guys have created together. I was really interested on your guys' about page. It says the following, Joe. It says, Self Decode is the only company in the world that directly provides you with a holistic set of accurate health recommendations based on your genes so that you can take charge of your own healthcare with data-driven health decisions. So with that statement, how are you guys making yourself different than what's out there today? Why are you guys the leader?
Yeah, so I think when we did the research on products on the market, it was very clear that very few companies were using the right methods and the right technologies to do these polygenetic risk scores because it's a complex process. And then on top of that, the process of creating these precision health reports are another process. It's very, very time consuming and you need the right team. And so what we did is we looked around, we saw, okay, who has the right team? Who's got the right technologies? Very, very few, almost none of the companies had the right teams and technologies to create the proper products. And so we said, okay, what do we want to do? What's our business plan? And we can't really spend tons of money on marketing and branding and also tons of money on product development and R&D, which is what we spend most of our money on, right? And so what we decided was we're going to build out products for consumers, for everybody. We have our consumer brand. We're also going to build out products for precision health products for any company who wants to use them as well, so that they can easily incorporate these kinds of tools into their specific app. When you're dealing with, let's say, healthcare in general, people are trying to solve a very specific issue. And what we did was we built this general, really, really great general platform that's quite powerful, but we don't go that deep on each particular issue, meaning there's no guided tour on how to get your mental health in order. Or it's kind of like, here's these in-depth reports, here's the information. And so there's companies that are focused on doing that. This company's focused on branding and marketing. This company's focused on different things. And this is what it is. Almost every company we approach is quite interested. They look at what we have and say, hey, this is too hard to create. Why would we do that if you already built it? So we're interested in actually putting precision health into the hands of as many people as possible. That is our goal. And we have our consumer part, and we're doing it through practitioners and other businesses as well.
Exciting current state. And of course, I also want to talk about kind of, future state as well, Joe, where you see things heading. As we talked about earlier, this is still a kind of a burgeoning market. A lot of people are still learning about this. You yourself have been one of the trailblazers. You've been there for a long time. So this is old hat for you. But a lot of people are starting to understand this a little bit more and what this means for them personally and what this could mean for their own health. So Joe, where do you see things heading? Where do you see things in the next 2 to 3 to 5 years? Not just for the industry at large, but also, of course, where Self-Decode is going to answer the call as well.
Yeah, I think those go hand in hand, because when I looked at the industry and say, hey, where are these things headed? I also developed my business plan around it, right? And so I think that in the next 5 years, healthcare, I think, is going to have to be personalized, right? So you have, let's say, supplement companies, you have health apps, you have a whole bunch of different healthcare apps, and they're all working on something that's very specific. And it's usually not that personalized. It could be something specific that's personalized. Maybe they have a questionnaire. And you see this. You see every company is trying to personalize things in a different way, whether it's through a questionnaire, whether it's through a lab test, whether it's through something specific here or there. And where I think the market is going is that these companies are going to have to adapt and provide a precision health service to their customer in order for them to, in a way, complete the customer journey, right? It's very hard for companies to provide enough value. A company like Facebook, you could start it, and a guy in his college room dorm was able to start it, and that was that. When it comes to healthcare, we don't see those things happening, right? Because it needs to be more deliberate. It really needs to be very well thought out. You need to focus on a niche of a particular problem that you're solving. And so while it's a very, very big market, right? And everybody wants to improve their health. So you could say the market is everybody, right? And it's a big cost. It's almost 20% of the GDP. It's clear that every company is going to need to be providing more of a holistic service, including different kinds of, I think every company is going to need to include genetics. They're going to need to include lab reports. And then they can have their secret sauce in product development in terms of motivating people to be healthier, or in terms of going deeper down a certain path or catering to a specific niche. And so where we come in like you asked, is where do we come into that? We want to be the platform so that companies don't have to spend tens of millions of dollars building out a genomics platform with very, very particular skills, building out certain kinds of health reports. We want to build the platform, and then companies can then cater that, add to it, add on top of it, and make a holistic experience for their customers.
Well, it's an exciting future, Joe. And also, one other question. A lot of things we've heard in the space. Oh, this is so expensive. This entire world is so expensive. Are you seeing the economic models, the models around this, obviously lessening over time as well, where this can be more accessible to the masses?
That's another thing that we're trying to do, right? So we've approached a number of businesses and we've gotten very, very good feedback. We're signing a lot of deals in businesses that want to introduce precision health. So that means that my prediction about the market is actually coming true. Most of the companies I'm approaching, they're like, yes, we want to do this. It's too hard to do. And it's clear that the market is moving in that direction. And it's too expensive to build out these kinds of platforms on their own. And so I think that what we're doing is trying to make the market cheaper by saying, we will take care of this platform so that you don't have to spend not every company has to spend tens of millions of dollars doing these product development. And that allows them to make their services cheaper. So you see, when you have it's like, hey, we will take care of this. This way you don't have to worry about it. Then multiple companies don't have to reinvent the wheel and spend a lot of money. And that makes healthcare much more expensive when each company is trying to reinvent the same wheel, right?
I love it.
And so what we're saying is, hey, for a pretty cheap price, you can license or white label these precision health services. And so that we feel like is going to make the whole market a lot cheaper and bring the cost down.
Well, it's certainly needed. As we know, health, wellness, and healthcare is an incredibly expensive proposition. So this future that you're painting for us, Joe, is a very exciting one and a needed one for sure. But of course, we also want to be able to help you out to get to that future state and continue to help with your journey. We have an incredible community rallied around this podcast. So with that, Joe, what's one problem, need, or question that you and the Self-Decode team have that we can be helping you with?
I think if there's people who have a health company and they want to provide precision services in their health company, something that we can provide for them, right? So that is our main goal for 2022, is try to provide precision health services to as many companies in the healthcare space as possible that want to get into this.
I love it. Well, thank you for that, Joe. But of course, be able to help you out, we need to be able to get a hold of you online as well. So what are some contact points online to be able to get a hold of you, websites, social media handles, or otherwise? How can we get a hold of you, Joe?
Yeah, so my email is joe@selfdecode.com if somebody wants to talk about a partnership. And somebody wants to follow me on Instagram, that's Mr. Biohacker. Or they could just visit Self-Decode and see what we got. It's a really cool platform.
Easy enough. And we'll have all those contact points online. So simply scroll down in your favorite podcast player to click on through to get a hold of Joe and the Self-Decode team. Of course, you can head over to our free global online community at passionatepioneers.com. There will be a post for Joe's episode where you can get a hold of him, leave some comments, feedback, or otherwise. But of course, to be able to find those contact points online, again, over at passionatepioneers.com. All right, Joe, we're going to start wrapping it up. Before we get you out of here, I do have one more piece for you. It's a fill in the blank, because I know you're incredibly passionate about all the things you've been working on for so many years. It's a fill in the blank. I'm a passionate pioneer because?
Because I had to fix my own health issues, and I know what other people are dealing with, and I want to give people the tools to be able to fix theirs.
I love it. I love it, Joe. Well, keep up the great work. We're rooting you on. Thanks again for joining up today. I know how busy you and the team are as we continue to move things forward here to improve the health and wellness of so many around the world that is so needed right now. You guys are doing incredible work. Thank you for spending time with our community to share what's happening in the Self-Decode camp. Again, Joe, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us today on Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli. We'd love to hear your feedback about the podcast so we can continue to improve this community and to further support the pioneers being featured. Lastly, please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast and invite your friends and colleagues to join us. This is Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli. I look forward to having you back with us during our next episode.